I'm Marwan Begay. I'm Navajo and I am from Oklahoma. I'm here doing a residency at the Crow's Shadow Institute. I am working on a couple of lithographs and also a series of monoprints. We were living in Santa Fe. Don Messick, he used to teach at the College of Santa Fe when College of Santa Fe was still there. They had artists who were coming in from Australia, some Aboriginal artists, and they wanted to do like a session of monotypes with them. And so they were looking for different native artists who were local. He called me up like the night before and he was like, hey, do you know anything about printmaking? And at the time I was a full-blown painter. And he was like, I think you'd really like it because it's very painterly. He was like, I'm gonna be truthful with you. We just need warm bodies. We have a space for you. You can just sit down, pretend like you're working.
So you're an extra?
Yeah, I was an extra. And so sitting there at first, and then I started painting on it, and I was like, oh, let's see what this kind of looks like. And then I was like, whoa, why don't you run it through the press? And he started running it through the press, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So that's how I started to print make. A little lighter.
Okay.
When I'm making prints and when I'm working, I think I should be prolific. You know, there's a lot of people who have really inspired me that they just work, and I love the way they work. And it's just like there's a confidence that they have when they're in that space of creativity, and they don't second guess. They just, like, every mark is purposeful, every action is purposeful, and they're a conduit through something that is much larger than what we can think about, and that confidence. And I admire that, and I try to work that way. Right now I'm probably averaging about 30.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
it's just very natural.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just lose track. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even remember some of the prints that I made in Santa Fe, and that was
Wow,
like
just
a month ago. Yeah, and so when I get the prints from here, I'll probably be like, oh yeah, I made these prints.
Yeah.
And it's just this sort of ongoing thing. Yeah, there's a quote that I always go by, which was by Rick Bartow. He's an artist that I really admire. Your muse doesn't carry you to the studio. You have to work. If you're sick, you have to work. If you're not feeling good, you have to work. If you're happy, you have to work. So just constantly working, and I think that practice of just always going to the studio, always being, I take it as being ready for those moments, just in case it does happen. Have admired a lot of artists who come from this region. Just the way the sun hits something, or just the way when I'm out driving around, I'm like, oh, I get their work now. I see it. I see what they're making their work about, and it kind of reflects who they are. And also incorporating just a little bit more of my tribe's designs or aesthetics into that. I got to go into the vault and just kind of just explore and just take pictures, just to see like some of their designs of the floral patterns and stuff. And then I'm out for my walk and I'll be like, oh, there it is. Look, that's beautiful. Now I know what plants they are, and just and it's just sort of that connection. It came about when I was getting my MFA. I was working on a body of work that was addressing diabetes. I was diagnosed with a sugarcane allergy, and that kind of spawned the research into what my body was accepting and what it was rejecting, which kind of brought me to diabetes. And I started doing a lot more research and creating a lot more work, and it was much more aggressive. I felt like it was much more to the point, investigating sort of like the death and the effects of having diabetes. And then afterwards, people were telling me their stories. It was just so heartbreaking To hear those stories and to witness it really made me more in balance. These stories were really affecting me, and these images were affecting me. I started doing this whole bird series was just sort of think about the birds and how we use their feathers for different ceremonies and for different ways of empowerment spiritually. I just started doing these birds to help counterbalance that whole experience. Eventually, the diabetes series pushed on, and then I started doing a lot more birds, which is where I'm at now. In the Navajo culture, we have a word for it. It's called Sat Nagai Bik Echojan. And a lot of that is maintaining that balance of thinking, that balance of action, that balance of planning. There's a certain way to kind of keep yourself balanced.